Michael, first of all, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We
Excited.
appreciate you being a part of this. I want to go back to your junior year of high school, where you had an individual from Junior Achievement come speak to your school. And that individual really inspired you, almost in the way a mentor would. Tell us about what happened there.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned Junior Achievement, something I'm still passionate about today. But yes, you're right. When I was a junior in high school, there was a volunteer that came in from Junior Achievement, and he was there to teach us about financial literacy. Now, I didn't know anything about financial literacy, let alone Junior Achievement. But what I remember so much and so vividly about that interaction was this gentleman was talking about kind of what he did for a living. Growing up, I didn't come from a whole lot. We didn't have a whole lot, and so didn't have a whole lot of mentors or even examples of what a career would look like. And so when this gentleman came in and he was an accountant, and he came in and talked about what the accounting world was like. And most people don't think accounting is a very exciting career path, but I was intrigued by it. I didn't really know much about accounting, and he just talked about it so passionately. And I tell everyone, I don't remember like the actual lesson that we were learning in financial literacy, but what I remember so much is that there was a gentleman in the front of the class, was wearing a suit, nicely dressed, and looked like me as a Black gentleman. And he talked about this career path that I had never considered. And he took a liking to me for some reason and said, this is something that you should consider. Had a longer conversation with him. I remember he stayed back after our class. And we fast forward today, which I'm sure we'll get to, I'm CFO of the Raiders organization. And there's no doubt in my mind that one interaction really was one of those seeds that was planted that really got me, kind of on the path of thinking about this career that I could do in accounting. What I always like to say about this gentleman, though, is that I don't remember his name. And I can see his face very vividly in my mind, but the impact that he had on me was just stellar. And that's part of the reason why I'm still involved in Junior Achievement today.
I'm hoping he catches his clip and he goes, I was that guy.
I hope so as well, because I the way I try to thank him is by telling that story and telling others that they should do the same. Even if you don't know what the impact you're having, just planting those seeds can just have a profound effect on different people. That's what I hope to do.
You mentioned that he was a Black gentleman. How important was that for you? You're looking at somebody in a position of leadership, a position of great achievement. You're about 16 years old at the time.
Right.
How important is that for you to go, yep, that's a path I'd like to take?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I didn't know that path even existed. My purview of the world was very small. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, and hadn't traveled much. We didn't do a whole lot of vacations or anything like that. So it was so important to me that this gentleman came in and talked about what he did, because I don't know if I would have gotten exposure to that area. I think at that point I may have been considering like a college path, but not fully committed. Like, I'm going to college when I finish high school. So even just the fact that I'm an accountant. Okay, how do you become an accountant? Well, you got to go to college. Okay, then I got to consider that path if I really want to aspire to be where you are. Because, again, I remember one of the other questions I asked him, I said, hey, are you rich? And he said, I do okay. And I said, all right, that sounds good, for me. And so all of those kind of little small things that this gentleman shared with me really did inspire where I'm at today. And there's other interactions, but that one really, it so vividly is in my mind what that gentleman imparted upon me at that early.
That's the number one question at Career Day. Kids always ask, how financially successful is this career?
Yeah, exactly. How do you do?
You went to University of Akron.
I did.
Business school in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful school. How important was higher education and the role of higher ed in your success?
Extremely important. I mean, obviously, going the accounting path, going any path in finance, not impossible, but you really do need to have those professional certifications, one being undergraduate degree. I majored in accounting at the University of Akron, and then worked for about 5 years and then went back to business school full time at the University of Virginia. And I say for both of those interactions, obviously accounting gave me the basis of what, the finance world looks like and accounting world looks like. But I'd say going back and doing that, I guess I call it a reset or a retooling when I went back to business school to learn even more about just business in general was really a catalyst. I made some amazing connections at both the University of Akron and the University of Virginia, but I also got an opportunity to understand what else was available in the world. What other paths could I take? And that was really where I decided that I really wanted to get on the CFO kind of path and really go to a company. I didn't even know I was coming to Vegas at the time, but go to a company that could, help me to develop to become a CFO at some point. Had several classmates that were from India that I interacted with, but really going there, being on the ground. I was end up being there for about 4 months in the study abroad program, and seeing how business is done in India. I was just amazing. India at the time, this was early 2000s. It was around 2006, 2005. India was growing and it continues to grow, and just seeing that level of growth, how large the population is, and just being in a different environment. I mean, it just gave me a different worldview. And so now, even when we're thinking about here with the Raiders, we're thinking about fans from all over the world. In the back of my mind, I can think, okay, not all fans are U.S. based fans. We have fans in India, we have fans in the UK, we have fans in Australia, etc. And so it gives me a different worldview, and just when I see people, I just don't assume they're from the U.S. or what their background is. I can think more about broadly about the world, and what other things they may have seen that I don't. And I appreciate hearing those perspectives and backgrounds, similar to what I did when I was there. You've got to put in some of those hours. Never take the shortcut. Always, even if it takes a little bit longer to do it, but it's a more complete product. Take that route every time. Don't take the shortcut. And it'll pay for you long. It'll pay off long term, and it has for me. I can share my experience, and other people that I've talked to, but I can share my experience. Being there, being involved, developing that curiosity, trying to help not only maybe the department that you're in, but developing relationships with other departments, other colleagues that you work with. All that stuff matters. I say there's a component of work, which is what you're learning in the books, what you're learning in school. And there's a second component to it, almost like a second job, where it's, just fitting into and molding into the culture of first corporate America or the world of business, but then specifically whatever company you're working into. And that takes work. It's not something that you just walk in and you can just, you just plug and play. You've got to take the time, you've got to make the commitment to get to know who your colleagues are, what makes them tick. Get to know them a little bit personally, and not have be best friends with everyone, on a personal side, but get to know what makes them tick.
Looking back, you mentioned the different the companies you work for, and you can't just plug and play. You got to get in there and grind, to use your words.
Mhm.
With Sorrel Capital, with Pinnacle Entertainment, with Caesars, if you just glance back,
Mm.
what's just a nugget of really a point of pride at one of those places, all three of those places, just something where you go, yeah, that's where I transcended. I got to a higher level of success. It
Yeah.
was because I was really on what was that thing?
Yeah, I'd say there's two things I would say that when I reflect back on all of my jobs is, and I always say this even today, did I leave it better in a better place than it was before I got there? And I can say undoubtedly in my mind that every place that I left, I was a contributor. I contributed significantly to that organization. I left it in a better place than I
Mm.
did. I'd say, yeah, for Caesars, I'd say that for Sorrel Capital, doing private equity work, and for Pinnacle, all the positions that I've had. And I'd say the second thing is that could I go home at night after working there, and sleep well at night, knowing that I had made the right decision, whether it be an ethical decision, moral decision that I had to make, that I made the right decision, even again, if it was a harder path that I had to make. But I did right by myself, and I did right by the other employees by making some of those tough decisions. And sometimes they're not the most popular, but they're the right decisions to be made. And so I can walk away knowing that, um, my moral integrity is still there with all these positions. There's no regrets. There's always the hard days. There's the grind days that you have. But if you always kind of, for me, if I keep that as my North Star, it's like, just doing the right thing. And people know. People know when they're doing the right thing. And I'm always kind of keeping that, in the back of my mind, just doing right by people. Now that I've kind of moved into a position where I've got even more direct reports,
Mhm.
it's so much more important now than managing people, that I'm just, managing them and doing right by them as people. And I just try to carry that every day as I walk into this building, and even in life. I want to be able to go home to my daughter, and her feel good about looking at me and knowing that dad's doing the right thing.
I'm sure she does.
Yeah.
Long track record of giving back and helping our youth and lifting up our youth, be it communities in school, be it junior achievement. Why is that so important to you?
It's so important. I mean, it goes back to, again, my upbringing and my history. I grew up in a single parent home, but and my mom tried to give me as many opportunities as she could, but she couldn't give me access to everything,
Mhm.
that was available. And so by being involved, like you said, in communities and schools, by being involved in junior achievement, two of my mainstays, it's just that. It's wanting to make an impact. I'll sometimes do, conversations or talks to some young people, and I say my goal is to find more Michaels. So to find more people who find more kids who were like me, men or girls or boys that were like me that just need direction, just need to see what's possible, that needs to develop that North Star. They don't know they need to do that. So my goal when I'm having a conversation with kids, or I have probably more mentors than I probably care to, to admit that I have, is just to help them along the way because I need help along the way. And I know they're going to need help along the way. And so just to find more Michaels. And then I believe, at least for me, once the North Star is set and once you're set on the path, then it's up to you to develop, like we talked about, to get in, do the grind, to work really hard and to, relate with other people and develop a good work product. But first, you need to just get that inkling of, encouragement that says, "Oh, I can do that. Oh, I want to be." Doesn't have to be a CFO. I want to be a doctor. I want to be, I want to be in broadcasting or what have you. You need to get that hope that you can do it. Because for me, when I would watch even professionals on TV, it was fictional to me. It wasn't. I didn't see somebody, and it wasn't like something I could just like kind of touch and feel. And once I got an opportunity to see that somebody, okay, that's somebody that I know I've had a personal conversation with. I think that's what set me on this on the top, on the path that I was, and that's what junior achievement allows me to do: sit in front of these students, talk to these students about what they're doing, but also help with the oversight of the organizations, being on the board of directors, to make sure the organization is able to achieve its mission. The best part was, I think, finishing it. Obviously, was the best part, getting to the last stop. But it was. Everyone marvels at the physical feat that it is, and it is quite that. But it's really like the mental piece. When you're running marathons, you start to realize that you're physically there. Obviously, I trained for the marathon. When you get there and you're on marathon, pick it marathon number 4, in the middle of middle of the marathon, your body can handle it, you think, but if your mind tells your body you can't handle it, then that's when your mind starts playing tricks on you. You really got to just kind of control your thoughts in order to get your body to perform. You've got to get your mind into the right place. And so that was the part I think I learned the most. I was able to fundraise. I raised money for junior achievement for that race, fundraise, and was able to, give them a check, and I didn't take any of the fees from it. I gave them a full check for all the money that I raised for that. So that was a really good part. Worst part, you know, marathon number 1 was Antarctica. So that's a great way to start. It was 25 below zero,
Oh my
and
goodness.
it was quite the grind.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was tough. I've never run any, and haven't since run anywhere that cold.
Right.
But once I got through that, it was I felt a lot stronger, and I think in my mind, I'm like, okay, I think I could do this thing. And then throughout the race, you have different ups and downs in your mind.
I learned, I believe it was marathon 5. I learned about you that your body and brain just went, no, I'm done. At the
Yeah, that was
beginning of the
marathon 6, actually.
Marathon 6.
It was marathon
And
6,
then you,
Santiago, Chile. Yes.
Santiago, Chile. And then you said, you said one foot in front of the other. I said, what a great lesson for life. I thought,
You're right. You're right. It really was. I stood there at the start. They shot the gun off, and everyone started running, and I was like, I think I'm done, and I couldn't. And I tell everybody, it's kind of like those cartoons you see, angel and the devil on both
Sure.
shoulders, and it's like, I gotta get this angel talk more about, like we need to get this thing going. And what came to my mind, and again, it's all your mind playing tricks on you, is all right, just start.
Yeah.
Just start, put one foot in front of the other. Don't think about mile 23, think about mile 1,
Right.
and then think about mile 2, and just keep your feet moving and don't stop them until you cross the finish line. And that's what got me through that race number 6.
I love that.
Yeah.
You were described to Mark Davis from Headhunters as a man with high morals and high integrity. Talk about the importance of character in the workplace.
Yeah, I mean, it goes without saying that, and in any position that you're in, but I'd say, even in a higher profile position like it is the Raiders, the character that you're bringing to the job on a day-to-day basis is just so important. So important, one, because your other employees are looking at you as kind of their guide, their compass for how they should react and interact, not just with you, but with other employees in the organization. But also, again, for me, it's just easier. It's the way I'd say it. It's just easier to walk around with a high level of moral character. And it's just because you don't have any regrets, you don't have any doubts, you're not second thinking like, well, what did I tell this person? What did I tell what did I tell? You're trying to keep different stories
Right.
and lies if you are straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, just and sometimes you have to give a difficult message to some people, but that shows your level of character. The fact that you're willing to, have a difficult conversation with someone, even though they may not like receiving the message, but they know that you're approaching it with the right attitude and you're approaching it with a high level of character. The biggest way I can say it is it's just easier, and it's easier to sleep at night
I was
knowing that
just about to say,
knowing that
it's
you're just carrying yourself with a high level of
you can
character.
put your head on the pillow and just relax.
Yeah, whether it goes to my wife or my daughter, if I take it kind of internal or just to people generally in the community, I just wanna I don't know, I just wanna do right by people. That's just it.
We've been, speaking of doing right by people, we've been very much have noticed in local news, Raiders got to town and immediately had a philanthropic footprint. It was immediate. And so why is that so important? Is it something that comes from the top? Is it's so noticeable days after
Yeah.
you guys arrived. Why is that so important?
I'm glad you asked that, Brian. And I think the tone is from the top, from Mark Davis, obviously the team owner, Sandra Douglas Morgan,
Yeah.
our president. It is consistent from all levels, and that we want to do right by the community. One of the things that Mark said is, you're not just getting a football team, you're getting an army. You're getting the Raiders Army, and that includes employees from the business side, the football side. And we want to be a part of this community. We're not just coming into this community just kind of to rent the space or to just come in and just I guess just impart the Raiders brand. We want to be a part of the community. We want the community to embrace us and show that we're embracing the community, in the same way they embraced us by bringing the team here to Las Vegas. And so whether it's being involved in different philanthropic efforts, whether it's just, doing things like this and talking to people about what the Raiders do in the organization. We have an impact report that we just published. We just want to be a part of the community. We want to be a member of the community and not just someone that's kind of, like I said, here renting space in the community. We're going to be here. We're at the stadium at least for 30 years, and we'll be here much longer than that at the stadium. So we're going to be here for a while. So why not give back to the community as best we can? There are kids that are growing up that may or may not be interested in football, but we invest a lot in the flag football program, but also just in different community engagements. At Junior Achievement, going back to that, we have at their newest facility over there, we have a storefront. Talk about what careers in football look like. It's not just football players, but there's also the business side of football and what's possible in those spaces. There's just so many things. Today we had a Raider Day at one of the schools, a Spirit Day for a school that we think best exhibited, what it means to be a fan of the Raiders from kids. So whether it's adults, whether it's kids, across the board, we want to, really embrace this community. Honestly, we also want to create young Raider fans that'll be Raider fans for life. As they're
That's
growing.
important.
Even if their parents aren't, we want the kids to become Raider fans.
I have to ask, I was just thinking at Allegiant, there's so much going on. Guns N' Roses, WrestleMania,
Yeah.
there's so much going on there. What was the Super Bowl like for you guys in leadership?
You mean other than being completely exhausted? Other than being completely exhausted, the
I can
Super
imagine.
Bowl was an amazing, amazing event for this community. Part of the reason why, Allegiant Stadium was built was not just for the Raiders, but it was also for other community events, whether it be concerts like you mentioned. But really a pinnacle of, our stadium, and the pinnacle event in our stadium was Super Bowl.
You guys killed it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I have to ask, when you were training for a marathon, you were running 100 miles a week. You're a girl dad. You're a husband. You obviously have a very important, demanding job. You mentioned the word balance earlier. I think everyone watching, young people, adults who hear your answer on this, can learn something from you. How do you achieve balance? What advice would you impart?
Yeah, I'll be honest, for me, it's something I have to keep top of mind. It's not something, so I think for some people it comes more natural, but it's something that I have to keep top of mind when I'm thinking about it. But really what it is I really believe, and running has actually helped a lot with this, is developing some way to kind of just disconnect from the office, whether it be being with family. And for me, sometimes it's out running at, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning sometimes. But it's really finding that way to, really just disconnect and not have to, be 24/7 kind of thinking about work. And I think that makes me a better employee because when I'm able to kind of take that rest and then come back in, even on a daily basis with a little bit more energy of thinking about, okay, what do we need to do to get, this task done here at work? I think it just makes me better. I think it makes me better for the people who work with me and for me. But I think it just makes me a better person as well. And again, it doesn't come naturally to me, but what I found, and really through running has been the case that I'm so focused when I'm running about, I guess, like not dying, because I'm running all these long distances. It turns my brain off of that,
Yeah.
for a while. And the same thing when I'm with family, I can turn my brain off of that. But then when I'm at work, I'm fully engaged. No different than when I'm running, I'm fully engaged, and when I'm at home, I'm fully engaged.
Last question
Hmm.
for the teen that is watching, maybe a young Black man or a young Black woman or
Hmm.
Hispanic, or maybe not the easiest neighborhood. You grew up in a tough neighborhood, single mom. You didn't have a ton of financial backing, yet
Hmm.
somehow you have had this incredibly impressive life and risen up with all this work. If that person is doubting they can do it, what is the message you can leave them with that you can impart to them to say, listen, forget that doubt. Here's why you can do it. What would you tell that young man or woman?
Trying to expose yourself to more things that are just within your purview. Not, I guess, kind of following the crowd always. What really is a curiosity? What is something that really interests you that may not be cool, may not be something that, others would think is something that's interesting, but exploring those avenues, trying to find out what it is that kind of makes you
Mm.
tick. For me, that's the advice that I give to people. And then once you succeed, once you make it, whatever make it means, give back. Got to give back. You got to go back and try to impart those things for the next generation. I think with that, especially for Black and brown kids, that's what's really going to continue to lift the community and encourage others to do the same. So that would be my one advice: mentor and all the other things I've done. Maybe take up a running journey or something like that as well. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt.
This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you, Brian.
time.